Hi there, and welcome to another video. In this one, I will be making a travel-friendly placemat, something that can be rolled up and tucked into a bag easily, and has a pocket in the back to store some utensils. Alright, let's get started. The first step is choosing fabrics, and I will go into my extensive stash to find something that will be right for this project. These are my 1/2 meter and larger cuts of fabric. I am going to be choosing fabrics for this thing out of these. A few years ago, I got these fabrics, these guys, and these from Fabricland. It was their spring collection for the year, part of it. And I'm thinking of going that route. They're nice and light. They're part of the same collection, so they're already coordinated. So that... maybe this one? Final fabrics, I've chosen these two for the top layer, this for the back. I thought it was nice, kind of makes you think of, sand or something. I've decided that this final piece is going to be 20 inches by 14 inches. I am going to go with an asymmetrical pieced front. It's going to be 2 strips, and one is just going to be larger than the other. Trying to keep this pattern, super simple, minimal piecing. I suppose I could just do a top that was just one piece of fabric, and then it would just be making the quilt sandwich and binding it off. But to give it a little bit of interest, this fabric is going to be the larger fabric. It's a nice, small print fabric, and then this will be the offset, the smaller piece, because that makes for a good kind of accent fabric. So here I've got my backing fabric, and I need a piece that's 21 inches long. I could cut it using the grid lines on my mat, but 2 issues. One, that wouldn't leave a whole lot of room for the actual ruler, and also I don't really like using the grid lines on the mat for cutting. I prefer to use the grid lines on the ruler, and there's this neat little trick I learned years ago to cut something that is longer than any ruler that you have. You take one ruler and you line it up to the measurement that you want. I want this piece to be 21 inches long. I am lining up the 21-inch line with the selvage line, because obviously I don't want that. So once you've got that lined up, and you butt it against it. If I were using a fold or a cut edge of the fabric as my straight edge, I would then line up one of the marks on this ruler appropriately, but I am not doing that. I am using the selvage as my straight line, so I want this ruler that I'm using for cutting completely butted against this ruler. So now here is my 21-inch piece. Using the very sophisticated method of overlapping the fabrics, I've mocked up a sort of preview of how I think I want this thing to look. So it's going to be 20 inches, and I've got 14 inches with this fabric, and then 6 inches with this fabric, and I think that is a nice alignment. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut those out. I knew these fabrics were cut wonky on one side, and that's why I cut them larger than the final piece. Now I am going to cut them down to the actual size that I want. I know that this edge that I just cut is straight, and I know that this edge that I cut is straight. So I have decided that I want this and this to be my straight edge references, because I know that they are straight and pretty close to perpendicular to each other. I am going to cut this off as much as I need, and then I am going to square the green fabric to this. And that's how I'm going to solve this issue. What happens when you realize you are lining yourself up to the wrong side for cutting? This is what happens. I had to flip it. I can confidently cut this piece off, and I know that my red fabric is now cut and prepped, minus the extra selvage. Lining it up with this edge of the red fabric. So now, minus the selvage, which I will cut off in a moment, both my fabrics are square and at the proper size. Now I've got my machine set up for what is probably the most basic piecing that you can possibly do, right? Just sewing this together, and I've threaded with just staying in that theme, the most basic white that I have, you know, whether rightly or wrongly, that is what I have decided to do. Now, I have not pinned this down because honestly, I feel more than comfortable enough doing this just like this. And there we go. Now I am going to try something. I have pressed seams open before. It's generally not my favorite method. I do like to press to one side. For this, I am going to try pressing open because I want this whole seam area to lay a little bit flatter. When you're using these travel irons, be careful of the body. It gets very hot. Very, very hot. Ask me how I know. Let's look at it from the other side. I think I would call that one pressed seam. Trying to decide how I wanted to quilt this. I knew when I first started that I wanted some kind of overall pattern, and I wanted it to be not dense. As I discussed in a previous video, the denser the quilting, the more the final piece is going to be stiff. It's not going to want to roll so much. I have this one. Looks like a nice flower. And I've decided that this is the one that I'm going to go with. It's got a nice summery feel. So I am going to be stitching a few copies of this just all over. Now I just need to decide which thread I'm going to use. So I've got two options for each fabric. This one looks like it might disappear better. This one gives a little pop of color. Coming down to here, this one might disappear better, and this one gives a little pop of color. And given the stencil I've decided to use, I think I'm going to go with this one and this one to give that little bit of color. You'll be able to see a little bit the designs that I make. I've positioned the stencil, yeah, that's about where I want it. And you might be looking at this and thinking, Chantal, that's a great idea, but do I really have to sit there and trace out the whole thing, one line at a time, with a marking pencil? Well, I've got good news for you. Let me introduce you to the quilting pounce. You fill one of these up through this. That's what it looks like, with a marking chalk, and just give it, whoop. Yeah. Now, the problem is also that some of these, like this, it's a white powder. It's not the most visible. I have a blue powder. Now I bring over my blue pounce. Give that a really good pounce over a couple of times. Lift the stencil away and you really cannot see that. Oh, come on. I wanted to talk about just how easy pounces are to use, because I've seen people use them with no trouble. This is like the 5th time. I have no doubt that pounces are simple to use when you know how to use them, which quite clearly I don't. And all I am ending up with so far is a lot of powder all over the place and a lot of coughing as I inhale said powder. By the way, this is just like a damp face cloth. So now that I've given up on the pounce, at least for now, I'm gonna have to practice with it more. We're gonna try one of these little marking pens, and that seems to, I don't know, more or less work. The cleanest imprint thus far. I have my machine set up for the quilting. I've got my red thread for the red fabric up on the top. In the bobbin, I have a neutral brown that matches the backing fabric. I've got my free motion foot attached, and my feed dogs are lowered so they're out of the way. And I've got my quilting table extension set up to go. My nice Teflon mat to make moving it a little bit easier. So I'm all set. Now I've got my quilting gloves on with their nice grippy tips. Now it's been a while since I've quilted free motion, so let's see how good I am on it. Actually, what I'm going to do, if I were thinking, go like this. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it shows it's been a while. Tired of seeing videos with all these perfect free motion quilters? I am a horrible free motion quilter. The main reason why I don't do it very much. Going around to make a nice little circle, like it's the center of a flower. Isn't that just about the saddest flower you've ever seen? My free motion skills are non-existent. And there is a second sad-looking flower. Sometimes it's better to go a little bit faster. This petal I made moving a little faster. So you can kind of see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those flower patterns. So here is the final quilting. Free motion quilting is not my strong suit. It's time to add the binding and then hand stitch pockets onto the back. To sew this onto the back, I'm using a mark on the presser foot that's approximately 1/8 of an inch. And of course, all of this binding is done in the exact same way as my binding video. Alrighty. And now the placemat itself is completely finished. But I want to attach a pocket to hold my camping utensils. And I want to attach it to the back so that I can roll this thing up and it becomes a little more transportable. And I've decided that I want the pocket to be over on this side. I'm going to use part of this. I'm just gonna make a plain, flat pocket of fabric. So here is my pocket flap. Let's see how this works. Final project. Look at that. All quilted up. The back with the pocket. I can take this with me, go for a picnic somewhere. I will always have my nice big placemat and a place to keep my utensils. Thanks for watching this little adventure. If you feel like it, let me know what you've got going on for summer projects. If you want to know about future adventures, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.